anybody still there?
All right, everybody. We're going to try this again. I think we've got everything resolved. Thank you, everybody, for sticking with us. It looks like we kept a large percentage of the people who were there before. Um, so hopefully you can all hear us now. We can hear each other, and
I hope you can hear me.
so anyway, well, now that that was all that fun is over and done with, um, Claudia, thanks for being here. Um, Everybody who's watching, thanks for being here, and welcome to our special Giving Tuesday broadcast. Um, Today we've got Claudia to talk about a program that she has wanted to put together for quite a while. And it's a great way for you to get involved and to do, you know, to just be part of what we're doing here at C3. So, Claudia, why don't you go ahead and
I'll
explain?
jump in. I will jump
Yeah,
in since
explain
I've been muted.
Crusaders.
Thank you all for putting up with the tech issues. We're learning on our feet, and Jenny's doing a great job, but stuff happens. Anyway, so I think some of you know that I've always been sort of a history buff, and I'm not romanticizing what the Crusaders did in any way, shape, or form, but the word crusade has always really spoken to me on a deep level, as if you commit your life to something. And I know this may sound dramatic or to some people, but it's absolutely true that I've committed my life to awareness of the Sinclair method. And I truly believe that this method can change the treatment world as we know it. And I think it can reach into places that once this is more known, more people will have support, and we can really make a dent in this global pandemic, which is alcohol use disorder, which is alcohol misuse, which is destruction of families and lives and health and the systems of our governments and world. We're spending so much money. We're throwing ineffective treatment at people. We're spending money where we shouldn't be on health issues and car accidents and lost days of work, lost productivity. And I do believe in my heart that if more people adapt the Sinclair method, if even 50%, if it has a 78% long-term success rate, let's say 40 or 50% of people use this method, imagine how many lives would be saved, and the trickle-down effect into families, into businesses, into the world. We can heal it. So when I say a crusade, I mean, this is what I love doing, and this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. This is my crusade. And Jenny, luckily for me, has joined on board and has made it her crusade as well. And we need your help. We are a small team. We appreciate all the volunteers that have come. We appreciate the diehard, loyal people who have stuck by us through thick and thin. And we're 7 years old now, and now we want this team, this Crusader team. People always ask, what does C3 stand for? And I joke around saying, Claudia Christian's crusade. And now we're really committed to making this Claudia Christian's crusade, and also Jenny's crusade. But that's where we're going. Now, when I want to talk to you about what monthly donations mean is, I've had this little conundrum, and I'm just being honest with you because I can be honest with you. And that is that people, on one hand, they get the help that they need and they disappear, which is great. It's what I want. I want them to have their alcohol misuse gone, their alcohol problem eliminated. And that's wonderful. But, and this is a huge but, I also want them to understand that by using TSM and the resources at C3 Foundation and my help and Jenny's help, that they kind of should pay back a little bit and maybe join the Crusaders and say, you know what, TSM helped me, the free resources at C3 Foundation helped me, and I would love to become sort of this member of the Crusades and give a monthly donation. And by doing that, you're still broken free from your alcohol issue, but you're also giving back and you're helping other people. You're helping us survive so we can help more people. This is a trickle down effect. This is a grid that goes bigger and bigger and bigger. We help one person, they help 5 people, 10 people, 20 people. And that also goes for education. The more you talk about TSM at parties or with your friends or when you socialize or at work, the more people will hear it, the people who need to hear about it. So back to the monthly donation. I was speaking to a fellow quite a while ago, and this has been something that I've been in my mind for years. As Jenny knows, I fester on things and then I throw them out at any inappropriate times, and I want to do it right now. And she reins me in and says, Claudia, now's not the right time. We got too much going on. So now is the right time. So I was talking to this guy, and he did some charity funding for a pet sanctuary. And by the way, in no way, shape, or form am I dissing that people support pet sanctuaries, but I'm thinking to myself, you got people to donate $25 a month. He got 300 people to donate $2,500 a month, and that brought in a 6-figure amount of money to that nonprofit foundation who helps maybe 100 pets. And I'm thinking to myself, hang on a second. We reach hundreds and thousands of people, potentially millions of people, and we're saving people plus their families, plus the trickle down effect, plus all of that. And why can't we have a few hundred people giving $2,500 a month?
And
So
part of the thing that we find a challenge here is that puppies and kittens and animals are cute.
Are adorable.
And addiction is not cute.
Not sexy. Yeah.
Addiction
Yeah,
is not what people want to. They don't feel good about it.
Yeah.
It doesn't make them warm and fuzzy, and
yeah.
And that's really problematic because it's such a huge issue, and it. I believe it was several years ago that the most updated statistics were that every American man, woman, and child basically pays about the first $900 a year toward every year toward addiction and the economic fallout, and that's how it breaks down, is that for every citizen in the United States, we're all contributing almost $1,000 a year each toward trying to fix the addiction issue and dealing, and that doesn't even count the damage from drunk driving. So it affects us all.
Yeah, it not only affects us all, but if it doesn't seem like a warm, fuzzy thing, I think a lot of you can identify with the human aspect of it. You can think of not all people who suffer from an addiction are bad people. In fact, this is something that I've said time and time again, you don't ask for. So if we have more people coming forward that you can relate to, and if you find the compassion and the empathy in your heart, then it becomes easier. But as Jenny said, it's far less complex for an individual to say, oh, I'm going to save that puppy or that kid in Africa, and I'm going to get a picture of that child. When you're faced with looking at me, who lost years of my life to alcohol, and you're faced with that dilemma in your mind saying, well, why couldn't she just quit? Or why couldn't she just stop? And why did she do this to herself? When you understand what it really feels like to be hijacked by this compulsive brain disorder, then maybe it will open you up to not only knowledge, but to saying, you know what, I want to prevent other people from having this happen to them, because maybe, you know, I care about Claudia or about Katie from Embody Daily, or about another individual who seems like they're doing good things. So it really is about opening your heart and saying, you know, yeah, it's easy to give to the German Shepherd Rescue Foundation, but I'm going to start maybe suffering from something I don't quite understand because I've never experienced it, but I understand the financial aspect that's happening, $250 billion that it costs, I think, in the United States. Is that, yeah, billion, not million,
yeah.
correct? Yeah. The economic harm, and also the harm to families and to businesses. So that's, I think, was the impetus behind starting this new way. Not that we do not appreciate one-time donations, not that everything that people have done, from volunteering to spreading the word to posting things on their own social media, we appreciate each and every act of kindness and generosity to C3 Foundation. This program is developed to give us sustainability and to give us some passive income that we can use to do more work, and to also be able to maybe get Jenny away from these constant barrages of selling my old memorabilia. I mean, you have to understand, this takes a lot of time and energy for her to create graphics and social media campaigns and to do all the outreach for maybe a $600 auction or a $2,000 auction. If we have 100 people giving $2,500 a month, we will be able to focus on things that are bigger, that are more important. And that's why I'm asking you today to pledge to become a Crusader. I've signed up. Katie has signed up from Embody Daily. We're getting people to commit to this. And I know that everybody's struggling right now, and I know this is not the right time to ask someone to commit that. But when you think about how much alcohol costs, how much you spend on other things, and how much money you're saving by not going out during COVID, you can say, you know what, I can justify this, instead of, getting extra coffees, or for most people, alcohol. $25 a month, that's not, I mean, that's a couple bottles of okay wine. That's, some, a 12 pack of IPAs. I mean, it's not a lot of money when you come to think about it in terms of that. And what it could do for us is enormous.
And we hear all the time, how come people don't know about the Sinclair method? Because largely over the last 7.5 years, it's been myself and Claudia and a handful of individuals who may tell a person or two about it, and the wonderful volunteers that we've had. But everything that's out there right now can be traced back. You go back 7.5 years and none of it existed before C3 Foundation. And there's only so much that two human beings and some casual volunteers can do.
Yeah.
$25 may sound like a lot a month. It may sound like not that much a month. That all depends on where you're at individually. However, our ultimate goal is that, get 300 people signed up. We're hoping to get between 25 and 30 by the end of December, and build up to 100 by the end of next year. So what Claudia and I have talked about is, so what's in it for the Crusaders, other than knowing that you're doing something good to help us further knowledge of the Sinclair method, continue to educate doctors and mental health providers about the method and how they can use it with their patients. But once we hit 50 people who sign up, then Claudia will start an exclusive Crusaders only meeting once every 6 months, where it's just an Ask Me Anything format with Claudia. And so that'll happen twice a year once we hit that initial 50 people signed up at $25 a month. We've found that in the last however many decades it's been since COVID started, because it really feels that long, we found that we are absolutely slammed. Claudia and I are busier than ever because people feel isolated, because in many cases they are. People are depressed, they're worried, they are anxious. All of these things make people want to drink more. Whether
self.
you're addicted or not,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's
it.
very very easy to want to reach for a
Yeah,
beer or for a bottle
yeah.
of wine. And so we have been we have been working so hard. We've been adding providers into our network, which is really amazing because of the fact that we have not been able to go out and get face to face with doctors like we normally do. We Claudia launched the YourSinclairMethod.com coaching, which has helped dozens upon dozens of people. Um, it just we're just doing everything we can to create more resources to further the education. We're planning our big conference. All of these things take not just money, but they take human resources as well. And without having an additional stream of income coming in on a steady, reliable monthly basis, we can't add staff. And that's problematic because when Claudia and I are already doing we don't really joke when we say we eat, sleep, and breathe C3 Foundation and what we do. It's not uncommon for either of us to still be answering emails and commenting on things at 10 o'clock at night after having worked all day. We need to add staff if we're going to be able to increase our reach. We need to add staff if we're going to be able to secure large scale grants because we can't do everything all at the same time, and we can't add staff without funding that
I
we can
think we
rely
can.
on.
I think we can share one little tidbit without making us seem vulnerable or anything. But we did have a meeting with a strategic advisor this year, and he basically said, 7 years old, you've got to grow now, and that means adding staff. Everything Jenny just said is paramount right now. We have to prove that we are not only sustainable, but that we are in a growth period. The only way we can do that is with a decent budget. And that's why this program is so important to us, because we really need that sustainability and the ability to grow. And Jenny, at this point, is carrying way too many hats and way too much weight. And we need somebody focused on taking over part of what she does so she can focus on grander things. And that's why I said the minutia of running C3 Foundation is unworthy of her talents. So honestly, it's sort of like the random emails that come into C3 Foundation. At one point, after many years of answering them, I just said to Jenny, I can't do it anymore because I just want to think of bigger things and broader reach. I should be out speaking. I should be reaching people. There's you look at the TED Talk that millions of people have watched. That's helped so many people. I need to be doing that more often, not figuring out how to bring in $1,000 grant. So all our talents need to be used in much more focused and better ways. And this is a program that can allow us to do exactly that, because we would have that dependable monthly income stream coming in.
And we chose Giving Tuesday to kick this off because it is an international day of giving. It's an international day where the whole globe gets together uh, and gives back in some way, shape, or form. And we understand that some of you can only volunteer. Some of you can only take our social media messages and reshare them. Some of you may only be able to give $5 or $10 once or twice a year, and that's great. We truly do appreciate all of that because every dollar strung together with other dollars does make a huge difference. But we've got a lot to do, and what ends up happening is because it's only Claudia and I, and because we're trying to do everything, random volunteers who are very interested in helping, we don't even have the capacity at times to direct volunteers. And that
Yeah.
alone is problematic. If we could even pay to have one person whose job it was to help coordinate volunteers, then
Yeah.
that we would be able to actually capitalize on all of the offers for help in a way that we can make sense out of.
Exactly.
And again, that comes down to we need steady funding um, in order to be able to hire more staff, and that comes from monthly giving. And I'm sorry, you can probably hear my dog
No worries
chiming
on.
in the background.
I do want to say one thing about those biannual meetings for the Crusaders. When Jenny said, you can ask me anything, it doesn't have to all be Sinclair Method related, because this is a thank you to everybody who's joined the Crusaders. We can chat about absolutely anything you want, whether that's video games or Babylon 5 or the Sinclair Method, or if you have a loved one who's suffering. From alcohol misuse, I'm happy to give them some advice. I mean, literally this is your time, and it's just a thank you for you. So I'm looking forward to those meetings. So I'm really anxious to hit that 50-person mark and be able to celebrate with a mocktail party twice a year, or cocktails, whatever you want, and just make it a good fun time. And
Yeah, and mocktails are actually starting to taste like actual drinks these days.
yeah, I wish they'd make a decent non-alcoholic wine, because I just haven't found anything that's remotely good. But
Well, I
the
did
beers
try.
are extraordinary, though.
There are some non-alcoholic gins out there, spiced
Yeah,
gins.
I got a gin that was rather good, and a whiskey and a tequila, and I they're pretty good. But the non-alcoholic IPAs are phenomenal. Bravas, Well Brewery, even Beck's non-alcoholic is. It's amazing what they can do with beer. They just. I was talking to Dr. Mendelson from RIA Health, and I was sort of moaning about the state of non-alcoholic wine, and he did clarify that because the alcohol preserves certain flavors, there's just no way around that particular science. But I have faith. I have faith that someday, just like I have faith that people will sign up to become a Crusader.
Yeah, I feel the same way about non-alcoholic stouts as you feel about non-alcoholic wine. I've yet to try a non-alcoholic stout that really.
Try the Bravas. Try the Bravas.
I'll have to because
It's called oatmeal stout.
Oh, okay.
It tastes like Guinness. It's
Oh,
amazing.
okay. Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
definitely have to check that out. And who knows? Maybe we'll do a non-alcoholic drink
tasting.
live stream, live stream and review coming up sometime in. That'd be perfect for one of our January slots during Dry
Absolutely.
January, actually. So
Yeah,
have to
people
put
are
that
super
on.
curious. That's for sure. That's definitely for sure. But for all of you who are currently on the Sinclair Method and drinking mindfully and safely and being accountable and compliant, you can breeze through this holiday season if you use all of the tools on C3 Foundation, including the free peer support meetings, the Facebook pages that are geared toward your level of TSM, and also the coaching page, which isn't free, but it's a great resource. We have many coaches there in the UK and the US now. So according to your time zone, you can choose to have a meeting with any of our TSM specialists. So there's a lot of resources out there to support you through this holiday season. And if you find yourself in a situation with an extra 25 bucks in your pocket, think about becoming a Crusader for $25 a month, and will help us grow and sustain as a nonprofit organization, and as the only TSM centric nonprofit organization now in the world. Now that C3 Europe has migrated into a for-profit business, we are the only game in town, folks. So yeah, so help us stay active and alive and viable.
Absolutely. And so let me just take a quick look and see anyone is signing up so far. Well, it looks like most of you are waiting until after to sign up, but that's fine. Um, we do have, I'm going to go ahead and put the full link, um, drop that into the
Yeah, the
comments.
link would help actually.
Well,
People.
I put the, we just put together a link tree, um, which is really growing. I knew we had a large digital footprint. I didn't realize how large it was until I started building a link tree. And
It's a link tree forest.
yes, it's becoming a link tree forest. Um, and so there is a question. It says when signing up as a Crusader, can you sign up so that the money comes out at a time of the month that is suitable to you? I believe the way that works because we use Give Lively as our primary platform for the Crusaders campaign. Um, whatever day of the month it is that you make that first donation, it will then once a month from that date. So if the first of the month is your best time, then get on that today. If the 15th of the month is your best day of the month to have something donated, then wait until the 15th. This is going to be a long-term giving program because we're having it set up as monthly recurring giving. And so it's not going away. We're doing a big push in December just to kick it off, but we will be talking about this at least once a month, possibly more
for the rest of my life, basically.
Well, I hope not the rest. I hope we're able to hit 300 well before the end of your lifetime.
I want my Crusaders to be thousands of Crusaders.
Once again, Claudia is plotting to take over the universe. Not just the world, the universe.
It's in my nature to think big, not small.
Yes.
So you imagine a very large army.
As we talk about Claudia doing, going big, let's.
Yes. Are you going to pick up one of the things for the auction? Oh yeah, there you go. Okay. So any of you have watched Blood of Zeus, but I play Hera, and I finagled that image and went behind Netflix's back and oops, made up 50 copies of it, and they're hot off the press, never been seen before, never been at a convention because there are no conventions.
And right now, our auction that ends at 6:00 Eastern today is the only place you can get
the only place to get that Hera image signed by me. So that's another way to give back. Please support the items in the auction, including my own personal Babylon 5 book that was signed by many cast members to me. It's the 20th anniversary Babylon 5 book. I am parting with that, which is one of the last pieces of my own personal memorabilia, because I just believe this strongly in the fact that we need to grow now, that 2021 has to be a stellar year for C3 Foundation. We cannot continue just the two of us. We have to bring in staff. We have to make this a really viable, growing nonprofit organization. And I have faith that with Jenny at the helm and me getting out there and speaking more and possibly getting on podcasts, big ones, and television, chat shows and so forth, that we can really, really start becoming the organization that I've had in my vision, in my mind, since the very beginning of time. When I started coaching people in 2010, I did have a vision. I said it would take a decade from the time we started C3 Foundation in 2013. I said it would take a decade for TSM to be more well-known. And I knew it would be a decade. I knew it would be 10 years of hard work. We've made one little 2 books on on the Sinclair Meth Journeys and Babylon Confidential. We've launched the coaching page. We have over 250 providers on our website. We are now in every single state in the United States. All of Australia and Canada are covered, and we have countries popping up like Ireland and Scotland that we never thought would get on board that are on board. So we have done an extraordinary amount of work. We've got 3 years left to become the organization, in my mind, that we should be. So please, so appreciate you joining as a Crusader. I promise you the biannually meetings will be a hoot. We will have a party twice a year. And you will be giving back to others for future generations, and saving children from the horror of having an alcoholic parent, saving siblings and parents for watching their loved ones suffer. So please join us in the Crusaders. I think it's going to be a magnificent, wonderful group of people.
And something you just said is something that I've always been very passionate about, and that's the preventative aspect, saving the future folks. But what we're seeing a lot of, especially because, as we're sitting here saying, yes, we need to grow, this is coming from a place of security that what we're doing right now, even with the pandemic, even with some reduced levels of donations, we have always, from day one, bootstrapped our everything that we've done to the point where we haven't had to reach into our operating reserves to make ends meet. We haven't had to cut back. We've built, for where we are, a very healthy and stable ground, but we can't grow from there. We can exist on it, but we can't do any more than what we're doing. So we're sustainable at the level we are, but the level we're at isn't enough. There are still people out there who are dying. There are still people out there who don't understand that, okay, just because you're drinking risky right now doesn't mean that you have to wait until you hit a rock bottom moment in order to do something about it. And until everyone who is no longer comfortable with how much they drink knows that there is something that can help them now, before their life falls apart, before they wreck their livers, before they go out and get into legal issues, before they ruin their marriage. Everyone needs to know that all of those hardships can be prevented. And that's amazing. We are seeing more people who have never tried any other treatment before. People who are starting the Sinclair method, who are drinking at levels that people who have been chronic daily drinkers for decades would love to get down to. And we're seeing people start at that level and say, this is already too much. This is already uncomfortable. I'm not comfortable always feeling like I need to reach for an additional bottle of wine or one more beer, or if it's in the house, we've got to finish it type.
I've also seen a lot of people who have a loved one, a parent or sibling who's abusing alcohol, and they just don't want to repeat that cycle, and they feel that genetically they might be inclined to do so. One thing that Jenny was talking about is when, the statistics are rather dire, which is why this is so important. Out of the 1 in 10 people who will seek treatment, that less than 1% of people will be offered a medication. So that's really an extremely low number. And that's mostly because the doctors don't know about these life-saving medications. They're taught to immediately tell someone to go to a meeting or just quit drinking or, go to rehab. That's their knee-jerk response to somebody. If they knew about these 6 medications that are used for alcohol use disorder, and if they knew that naltrexone used in a targeted manner was far more effective than taken daily with abstinence, if they just were educated, then they could help their patients in a much more comprehensive manner. And that's another thing that we are really focused on, is educating doctors. And that takes time, and it takes time away from Jenny to create avenues, especially when we can't go to conferences like we haven't been able to for the past year. Usually sign up new doctors at conferences, and so this has been really a difficult year to do the broader reach that we would like to do. But that is really paramount, is to have the doctor know that they can offer their patient a life-saving medication to treat their alcohol misuse, even if the person is not a so-called full-blown alcoholic. As Jenny's saying, get them where they're just starting to slip. Most of the people who come to me for coaching are in their 30s or 40s, and they're beginning to escalate in their drinking, the same age that I did. That's predominantly what happens. And then it becomes worse because they're in the middle of this pandemic and they're using it as a self-medication to relieve anxiety. Unbeknownst to them, it's making their anxiety and their sleep far worse. So they seek this treatment way before their so-called rock bottom. And you know my attitude about rock bottom. I think it's barbaric and it's inhumane.
It's unethical.
It's unethical, and it shouldn't even be brought up in the addiction world. There is no other disease in the world that people would treat that would say, you got to hit rock bottom before you seek treatment. We want people to come in before it's an issue, when they're drinking a bottle of wine a night and gaining weight and they feel uncomfortable and hungover and crappy the next day, when they haven't had an alcohol-free day in 3 weeks and they're saying, wow, you know what, my dad had a drinking problem, I don't want to be like that. That's when we want people to come preventative, so that they can get their life under control before it becomes detrimental to them.
Well, and the CDC has recently updated their website to state that 9 out of every 10 people who drink alcohol at above moderate levels do not meet the criteria for what used to be called an alcoholic. So rock bottom is set around that severe alcohol use disorder, formerly alcoholic person. And so that actually only targets 10% of the people who are problematic drinkers, people who should cut back a little bit for health reasons, for mental health reasons, for social reasons. And so the great thing about the Sinclair method is that it helps that 90% without leaving the 1% behind. So it can be used whether you are just starting to feel a little bit uncomfortable with how much you drink, or whether you've been drinking every day for decades.
Yeah, it really does cover the whole spectrum of alcohol use disorders. And that's why I believe so strongly in this method, and why we have to continue the good fight with our crusaders.
And the one other thing that we didn't talk about that is tying in with the Crusaders, and why having that steady stream is really important, is when it comes to, a lot of people say, well, why did my doctor prescribe this for me, but every day not to drink? Well, that's because they're not familiar with the medication or the Sinclair method, and so what they do is they follow the prescribing protocol as dictated by the FDA. And that is, take it every day and don't drink. What Claudia and I have been working on and talking to consultants about, who have graciously given us their time for free, is updating the label of naltrexone. And there is a valid path to petitioning the FDA to update the label to align with the current body of existing scientific knowledge that has happened since the medication was approved for alcoholism back in the mid-90s. But that costs
a lot of money.
Much money.
Yeah, it's about $1 million, if not more, to change the label.
Yeah, getting the label because we have to do things. First of all, we would have to rewrite the label. Then we would have to run label viability studies where people are given it and try see if they are able to understand. And the amount of of knowledge that goes through that. We would have to, and granted, we already have several doctors in mind who we would recruit for this project, but this isn't something that they can do for free. So we need to pay consultants to work with us. We need, and we can't do any of that on our current budget.
Right.
Most households can't survive on our current budget, and we do it very well. And that is because our salaries are so low.
Underpaid and overworked. But the FDA label would.
But we do that, and we've always done that since day one because we are so passionate about this. It's it can be interesting to see job offers float by that start at twice as much as what we're paid, but I what's money when you can change a life? And so Claudia and I are here doing what we're doing because we believe in it, and because we believe in the people that we're helping, because we can see and feel the heartbreak when someone emails us and says, my God, I wish that my brother or my sister or my father knew about this, because maybe they'd still be alive.
Yeah, those are heartbreaking, and that's why we get up every morning, and we want to make sure that it doesn't happen again. Or somebody who's lost decades of their life, like I did. Somebody who's 50 and said, I haven't had a sober day since I was 30 years old, and I haven't been able to work. I mean, I want to go back in time and say, wow, just think what that person could have done if they found this 20 years ago.
And then there's the flip side, and the flip side also is what gets me out of bed in the morning, and that's when I log onto Facebook and I'm in the peer support groups, and I hear, and I can read that person who has struggled for years, who accidentally, without even trying, found themselves at their first alcohol-free weekend or holiday event or family event, when they didn't even think about drinking the whole time, and they're just amazed at the progress that they've made. And hearing those stories and seeing that pure joy written out in those peer support groups when people have those successes, it gets me choked up. It's so amazing to know that people are so poignantly impacted by what we're doing, and by the education that we're giving to doctors, and by finding doctors who are willing to use this with their patients. And we're starting to get more and more, thankfully, mental health professionals who really want to help support people who are using the Sinclair method, because it's been problematic when we see people who, they go to their doctor, they get their prescription, they do really well, and they reach a point where they realize they have other things that they'd like to work on, and so they contact a therapist or a counselor, and they walk into the office and they start talking to that professional who is there to help them, and that professional says, you're joking, you're just kidding yourself, it's never going to work. And they're like, wait.
Yeah.
And you see somebody who's had so much success, and that success gets undermined by someone who, through a lack of knowledge and a lack of experience, it just bursts the bubble of someone who's doing really well. And that can really shake a person. And you never want to see somebody go to a counselor or therapist and have that actually undermine their recovery. And so we're working really hard at trying to reach out to, thankfully we have a handful around the world, but we need more than a handful, and there are only so many ways we can reach these professionals on the budget we have. I mean, we had to create a special fundraiser just to raise $1,500 to run a C3 ad in Counselor magazine. Yeah.
So all of that dictates, and Jenny, check your phone, please. We're going to have to wrap it up soon. I have a coaching session actually um, coming up soon. So are we prepared to sort of,
Yeah.
yeah?
There really
Um,
haven't been any questions, so
okay.
we've had a few signups. Thank you so much. We really really appreciate that, and we will keep everybody apprised as to when we hit that 50 mark. And
And
if
please share it on your social media, share it with friends, send it to families. If anybody you know can spare 25 bucks a month, ask them to do it for you for your Christmas present or your Hanukkah present. Please.
absolutely.
The gift of giving. So if you guys can spread the word, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I would like to lead this crusade into the next century of healing and science-based treatment for those who are suffering from alcohol use disorder. I thank you all from the bottom of my heart for all of your continued support. We could not do this without you, and you've been amazing. When Jenny talks about these small fundraisers for specific things, you always show up, and we are so grateful because it's allowed us to move forward and to do more good work. So thank you again. And I'm gonna start looking forward to designing a Crusader outfit for all of us. And
Sounds great.
I look forward to the first Crusader meeting. And yeah.
And happy Giving Tuesday, everybody. And again, we appreciate you all being here and sharing part of your Tuesday afternoon with us. If you're interested in our Giving Tuesday auction, it is ending again at 6 o'clock tonight. And I'll go ahead and pop that link back into the chat.
Lots of great items there, one of a kind, unique stuff, including my entire magazine collection that I've had since the early 90s of science fiction magazines, comic books. There's some Joe Straczynski stuff in there. There are.
And right now, that's last I checked, bidding on that was only at $75,
Well,
which
it
for
better be
that
more than
many.
that because I've been collecting that for about, yeah, a ridiculous amount of time. We're not letting it go for 75 bucks. So so please bid on that. By the way, 25 of those items are signed. They even, some of them have the original games in them, the CD-ROMs. So tell your gamer friends and your sci-fi fans and your genre fans that are friends of yours or loved ones to please check that item out because it's literally a 100-pound box of items that I have curated over the past decades. That's me signing out, folks. I got to get on this coaching session. Thank you so much, Jenny. Thank you again. I'm sorry about the tech issues, but we'll get through this. Love all of you. Thank you for your support. Mwah!
Bye, everybody.
Bye.